Are you worried about what could happen if the US plunges into a recession in 2026? I don't think people understand just how high the stakes are right now for homeowners, renters, and anyone watching the economy. Today we're exposing the warning signs that most people are missing, and revealing the 13 states that could be hit the hardest if the housing market collapses. If you want to know whether your state is at risk and what you can do to protect yourself, you need to watch this video until the end. Despite the optimistic headlines you might see in the media, the latest housing data from November 2025 paints a much more troubling picture. Beneath the surface, there are warning signs that suggest the market could be heading for serious trouble. For instance, while some outlets highlight stabilizing prices, the reality is that many regions are experiencing a sharp reversal from the explosive growth of the past few years. For example, US foreclosures have jumped by 20% compared to last year, which is a significant spike. At the same time, the rapid home price growth we saw during the pandemic has slowed dramatically, with some areas even seeing prices start to fall. In cities like Phoenix, Las Vegas, and parts of Florida, home values are already down 5 to 10% from their 2024 highs. This is a stark contrast to the double-digit gains we saw just a couple of years ago. What's even more concerning is that three major forces are converging in several states: rising foreclosures, weakening demand and falling prices, and state governments struggling with poor finances. This combination is creating a perfect storm in the housing market. In places like Illinois and New Jersey, for example, state budget deficits are forcing cuts to essential services, which in turn makes these areas less attractive to buyers and investors. Meanwhile, in states like Nevada and Arizona, a glut of new construction is colliding with shrinking demand, leaving entire neighborhoods with unsold homes. Historically, when these factors come together, it often signals the start of a full-on housing market collapse. We've seen similar patterns before major downturns in the past, and experts are warning that we could be on the brink of another one. During the 2008 crisis, for example, a surge in foreclosures and falling prices triggered a nationwide recession. Today the warning signs are eerily similar, but with new twists, like higher interest rates and record levels of household debt. So today, I'm counting down the 13 states most at risk as the US heads into what could be a significant recession in 2026. If you live in one of these states, or you're thinking about buying or selling a home, you'll want to pay close attention to what's coming next. We'll look at real-world examples, break down the data, and explore what's driving these risks, so you can make informed decisions in these uncertain times. Let's start with Florida, the Sunshine State. A place famous for its beautiful beaches, palm trees, and year-round warm weather. But beneath the surface of this paradise, there's a brewing storm in the housing market that's catching many by surprise. Florida's allure has always been its promise of affordable living and a relaxed lifestyle, but that promise is now under threat. Over the past few years, Florida has been at the epicenter of the US housing boom. New developments have sprung up almost overnight, and construction cranes have become a familiar sight on the horizon. People from all over the country flocked here, drawn by the promise of affordable homes and a laid-back lifestyle. In 2021 and 2022, cities like Tampa, Orlando, and Jacksonville saw double-digit price increases, with bidding wars becoming the norm. Investors, retirees, and remote workers all wanted a piece of the action. But now, high insurance costs are pushing homeowners to the brink. In some cases, premiums have doubled or even tripled in just a year or two, leaving families scrambling to make ends meet. For many, the dream of homeownership in Florida is turning into a financial nightmare. Take the example of a family in Fort Myers whose annual insurance bill jumped from $2,400 to over $7,000 in just 18 months, forcing them to cut back on essentials and consider selling their home. The situation is made worse by the fact that several major insurers are pulling out of the state altogether. This has left thousands of homeowners desperately searching for new coverage, often at much higher rates or with fewer protections. In 2023 alone, at least 6 major insurance companies announced their exit from Florida, citing unsustainable losses from hurricanes and litigation. The state-run Citizens Property Insurance Corporation, once a last resort, is now the largest insurer in Florida, raising concerns about its ability to handle a major disaster. As a result, migration into Florida is slowing down. The cost of living has soared, not just because of insurance, but also due to rising prices at the grocery store, higher utility bills, and increased property taxes. Many families who once saw Florida as a haven are now reconsidering their options. For example, in Miami-Dade County, property taxes have risen by an average of 12% in the past year, while electricity rates have climbed due to increased demand and infrastructure costs. For the first time in over a decade, net migration into Florida is down, fewer people are moving in, and some longtime residents are packing up and leaving, searching for more affordable places to live. According to recent census data, the number of people moving into Florida dropped by nearly 20% compared to the previous year. Some are heading to neighboring states like Georgia and Tennessee, where housing and insurance costs are lower. This shift is having a ripple effect on the housing market. Inventory is rising as more homes are listed for sale. Sellers are dropping prices to attract buyers, and properties are sitting on the market for longer periods of time. In some areas, the average time a home spends on the market has doubled since 2022, and price reductions are becoming increasingly common. Foreclosures are starting to tick up as some homeowners simply can't keep up with the mounting costs. Abandoned homes and auction signs are becoming more common sights in neighborhoods that were once bustling with activity. In the first quarter of 2024, foreclosure filings in Florida increased by 15% compared to the previous year, with the hardest hit areas being coastal communities vulnerable to hurricanes and flooding. What looks like a slowdown today could quickly snowball into a much bigger problem if these trends continue. The combination of rising costs, shrinking demand, and growing inventory is creating a perfect storm for Florida's housing market. Experts warn that if insurance and property tax issues aren't addressed, Florida could see a prolonged downturn, with ripple effects on local businesses, schools, and public services. If you're in Florida, it's more important than ever to keep a close eye on local trends, talk to your neighbors, and stay informed. The next few months could be critical in determining where the market goes from here. Whether you're a homeowner, renter, or investor, understanding the risks and opportunities in Florida's evolving housing landscape will be key to making smart decisions in the face of uncertainty. Colorado's housing market has hit a wall after years of rapid, almost frenetic growth. Once a magnet for tech workers, remote professionals, and families seeking a better quality of life, the state's real estate boom has ground to a halt. Builders who once couldn't keep up with demand are now facing canceled contracts and unfinished developments. The pace of new construction has slowed dramatically, with some projects abandoned midway. Foreclosures are spiking, among the highest increases nationwide. In Denver, alone, foreclosure filings have doubled compared to last year, and rural counties are seeing similar trends. Demand has cooled, inventory is piling up, and buyers are backing away due to affordability issues. The median home price has dropped by over 10% in some areas, yet many residents still find themselves priced out. Adjustable-rate mortgages are resetting, leaving many homeowners underwater. For those who bought at the peak, monthly payments have soared, pushing household budgets to the breaking point. Distressed sales and bank repossessions are surging, a classic warning sign. Investors are circling, but many properties sit vacant, waiting for buyers who never come. The ripple effects are spreading beyond housing. Commercial real estate is suffering, with office vacancies at record highs and small businesses shuttering as consumer spending slows. If job growth falters in 2026, Colorado could face a full-fledged bust. With layoffs already hitting the tech and tourism sectors, the state's economic resilience is being put to the test. Communities are bracing for tough times ahead, as families, businesses, and local governments scramble to adapt to a rapidly changing economic landscape. Will Colorado weather the storm, or is this the start of a deeper downturn? Illinois is facing a trifecta of trouble, with multiple crises converging at once and putting immense pressure on communities across the state. From the bustling streets of Chicago to the quiet neighborhoods in smaller towns, the effects are being felt everywhere. Residents are grappling with uncertainty as economic and social challenges mount, creating a sense of unease that's hard to ignore. The state's unique blend of urban, suburban, and rural communities means that the impact is both widespread and deeply personal, touching nearly every aspect of daily life. Foreclosures are rising faster than the national average, leaving families displaced and entire blocks dotted with empty homes. The state's economy is struggling to recover from recent shocks, with businesses shuttering and job opportunities dwindling. Many Illinoisans are finding it harder to make ends meet, and the ripple effects are visible in both urban and rural communities. In cities like Peoria and Rockford, manufacturing layoffs have surged, while in Chicago, service sector jobs have evaporated, hitting lower-income neighborhoods the hardest. Food insecurity is on the rise, and local charities report record demand for assistance. The closure of small businesses, from family-owned diners to local hardware stores, is eroding the fabric of many communities, leaving fewer options for employment and daily necessities. Precarious state finances, marked by massive pension liabilities and persistent budget shortfalls, leave little room for error. Lawmakers are scrambling to find solutions, but the sheer scale of the financial challenges makes it difficult to cushion the blow of an economic downturn. Public services are at risk, and the uncertainty is fueling frustration among residents and public employees alike. Illinois' pension crisis is among the worst in the nation, with unfunded liabilities exceeding $140 billion. This has forced the state to divert funds from essential services like education, public safety, and infrastructure. Teachers, police officers, and firefighters are increasingly worried about the security of their retirements, while school districts face tough choices about layoffs and program cuts. Recent protests at the state capitol highlight the growing tension between government officials and the public sector workforce, as both sides search for answers in a shrinking budget. In Chicago, the housing market is showing clear signs of distress. Inventory is rising as more homes hit the market, but buyers are scarce. Sellers are slashing prices in hopes of attracting interest, and distressed sales are becoming increasingly common. The once-hot real estate market is cooling rapidly, raising concerns about long-term stability. In some neighborhoods, homes are sitting unsold for months, forcing owners to accept steep losses or face foreclosure. The luxury condo market, once a symbol of Chicago's growth, is now plagued by vacancies and price reductions. Meanwhile, first-time buyers are struggling to secure financing as lenders tighten standards, further slowing the market's recovery. Some neighborhoods are seeing property values drop for the first time since the Great Recession, erasing years of hard-won gains. Abandoned homes and boarded-up properties are becoming a familiar sight, and the decline in values is making it even harder for struggling homeowners to recover. In areas like Englewood and East St. Louis, the exodus of residents is accelerating, leaving behind hollowed-out blocks and shrinking tax bases. This decline not only affects homeowners but also local governments, which rely on property taxes to fund schools, police, and other vital services. As values fall, so do revenues, creating a vicious cycle of disinvestment and decline. If these troubling trends persist, Illinois could face a prolonged decline that deepens its financial crisis and leaves lasting scars on its communities. The choices made in the coming months will be critical in determining whether the state can turn things around, or if the colliding crises will define Illinois for years to come. Experts warn that without bold action, such as comprehensive pension reform, targeted economic stimulus, and investment in affordable housing, the state risks falling further behind. Community leaders are calling for collaboration between government, business, and residents to chart a new path forward. The resilience of Illinoisans will be tested, but history shows that even in the darkest times, hope and innovation can spark renewal. The question now is whether Illinois can seize this moment to rebuild, or if it will remain trapped in a cycle of crisis and decline. South Carolina's rapid growth, once a symbol of opportunity, is now working against it. Over the past decade, the state has seen a population boom, with thousands relocating for its warm climate, lower taxes, and perceived affordability. But this influx has put immense pressure on housing, infrastructure, and local economies. Inventory is climbing, and prices are no longer appreciating at the same pace. In cities like Greenville and Columbia, homes that once sold in days now linger on the market for weeks or even months. Sellers are slashing prices, and realtors report a sharp decline in bidding wars. Affordability is a major barrier, and the job market, especially in tourism and manufacturing, is showing vulnerability. The state's reliance on seasonal tourism in places like Myrtle Beach and Hilton Head means that even small downturns in travel can ripple through the economy. Meanwhile, manufacturing hubs face uncertainty as global demand shifts and supply chain issues persist. Layoffs and hiring freezes are becoming more common, stalling homebuyer demand. In the upstate, several major employers have announced workforce reductions, while small businesses struggle to stay afloat amid rising costs and shrinking consumer spending. Foreclosures are creeping up, especially among recent buyers who stretched their budgets to enter the market at its peak. Many are now underwater on their mortgages, facing tough choices as interest rates remain high and job prospects dim. Without economic recovery, South Carolina could see a sharp correction in hot markets. Experts warn that unless job growth rebounds and affordability improves, the state's housing sector may face a prolonged downturn, with ripple effects across local businesses and communities. The coming months will be critical as policymakers, employers, and families navigate these mounting challenges. California, once the land of opportunity, is now witnessing a mass exodus of residents and businesses at an accelerating rate. In 2023 alone, over 500,000 people left the state, marking one of the largest population declines in its history. This trend is not just a blip, it's a sign of deeper, systemic issues. High taxes, skyrocketing housing costs, and some of the toughest regulations in the country are driving people out. Many families can no longer afford to buy or even rent, while entrepreneurs and corporations are relocating to states with friendlier business climates like Texas, Arizona, and Nevada. The The tech sector, once the pride of Silicon Valley, has seen giants like Oracle and Tesla move their headquarters elsewhere. The result? Population loss means more homes for sale and fewer buyers, especially in cities like San Francisco and Los Angeles. Neighborhoods that once had bidding wars now see properties sitting on the market for months. Real estate agents report a sharp increase in price reductions and a growing inventory of unsold homes. Price cuts are now common, and luxury homes, once snapped up by tech millionaires, are sitting unsold for months. In some high-end neighborhoods, prices have dropped by as much as 20%, and sellers are offering incentives just to attract interest. The ripple effect is being felt across the entire housing market. California now faces a major fiscal deficit, with billions lost in tax revenue as residents and businesses leave. This is straining public services and infrastructure. Schools are closing, road repairs are delayed, and essential services are being cut back. The state government is scrambling to balance the budget, but the challenges are mounting. These pressures are creating conditions eerily similar to those before the last housing crash. Foreclosures are rising, small businesses are shuttering, and more families are being pushed to the brink. If these trends continue, California could face a deeper economic crisis, one that reverberates far beyond its borders. Delaware, the nation's second smallest state by area, is often overlooked in national economic discussions, but its compact size belies the scale of the risks it faces as the possibility of a 2026 recession looms. State finances are under significant stress. Delaware's budget gaps have widened in recent years, driven by unpredictable revenue streams and rising expenditures. The state's reliance on corporate franchise taxes, while lucrative in boom times, makes it especially vulnerable to downturns in business activity. Housing costs have surged across Delaware, particularly in New Castle and Sussex counties. Many residents now spend more than 30% of their income on housing, a threshold that defines them as cost-burdened. This squeeze is especially hard on first-time buyers and renters, who face limited affordable options. Delinquencies and foreclosures are on the rise, particularly in suburban developments and rural communities. In 2023 alone, foreclosure filings in Delaware increased by over 20%, outpacing the national average. Many families who bought homes at peak prices now find themselves underwater as values stagnate or decline. Sellers are struggling to move homes at last year's prices. Properties linger on the market for months, forcing owners to slash prices or offer incentives. This slowdown is especially pronounced in new developments, where builders face mounting inventory and shrinking demand. If the broader economy takes a hit in 2026, Delaware's housing market could be among the first to feel the impact. With a high proportion of residents already stretched thin, even a modest rise in unemployment or interest rates could trigger a wave of defaults and further depress home values. Beyond housing, the ripple effects could be severe. Job losses in construction, real estate, and local services would strain social safety nets. Community organizations are already bracing for increased demand, as more Delawareans may need assistance with food, housing, and healthcare. As Delaware navigates these mounting risks, policymakers face tough choices. Will they find new sources of revenue or be forced to cut essential services? The answers will shape the state's resilience in the face of a potential recession and determine whether Delaware's small size becomes a liability or a source of agility in turbulent times. Nevada's boom and bust cycle is back in focus. The state, famous for its glittering casinos and rapid growth, is once again facing economic turbulence as warning signs multiply across its cities and towns. Foreclosure rates have soared, especially in Las Vegas, where thousands of homeowners are struggling to keep up with mortgage payments. In some neighborhoods, nearly 1 in 10 homes is now in some stage of foreclosure, echoing the darkest days of the last recession. The state's reliance on tourism makes it especially vulnerable to downturns. With fewer visitors, casinos and hotels have slashed jobs, leaving thousands of workers without steady income. The ripple effect is felt in every corner of the economy, from restaurants to retail. Rising delinquencies and more homes hitting the market are pushing prices down. In Clark County, median home prices have dropped by over 15% in just 6 months, and inventory is piling up as sellers struggle to find buyers. Investors are exiting, adding to the oversupply. Many who bought at the peak are now cutting their losses, flooding the market with properties and driving prices even lower. Commercial real estate is also feeling the pinch, with office vacancies at record highs. Without a turnaround in tourism or jobs, Nevada could see a collapse rivaling 2008. Experts warn that unless the state diversifies its economy and finds new sources of growth, the pain could be deeper and longer lasting than before. For many Nevadans, the stakes have never been higher. Texas's rapid growth, once a symbol of economic strength, is now revealing serious cracks beneath the surface. For years, cities like Austin, Dallas, and Houston have attracted waves of new residents, fueling a construction boom and skyrocketing home values. But that momentum is now reversing. Builders, eager to meet demand, ramped up construction at a record pace. However, with mortgage rates climbing and the flow of new arrivals slowing, the market has shifted abruptly. Many developments now sit unfinished, and new homes are flooding the market faster than buyers can absorb them. Inventory levels in major metros have surged to multi-year highs. In Dallas, for example, active listings have more than doubled since last year. Austin, once the hottest housing market in the country, now faces a glut of unsold homes, with some neighborhoods seeing months of supply balloon from 2 to over 8. Sellers are slashing prices to attract buyers, but many homes are still sitting on the market for months. Open houses that once drew crowds now go unattended, and agents report a sharp drop in bidding wars. In some cases, sellers are offering incentives like mortgage rate buy-downs or covering closing costs just to move inventory. The situation is especially dire for investors who bought multiple properties with short-term, adjustable-rate loans. As rates reset higher and rental demand softens, many are unable to cover their costs, leading to a spike in foreclosures and distressed sales. In Houston, foreclosure filings have jumped by over 30% compared to last year, with investor-owned homes making up a growing share. If the Texas economy weakens further, whether from job losses in tech, energy, or other sectors, the oversupply could quickly spiral into a full-blown crisis for homeowners. Falling prices would erode equity, trapping recent buyers in negative territory and putting even more pressure on the market. The very growth that fueled Texas's boom now threatens to become its biggest vulnerability, as overextension leaves both investors and families exposed to the risk of a deep downturn. New York is under immense pressure from a relentless outflow of residents and businesses. Over the past several years, the city has seen a net loss of hundreds of thousands of people, with many citing the high cost of living, safety concerns, and a desire for more space as primary reasons for leaving. This exodus is not just anecdotal. U.S. Census data confirms a significant population decline, especially in the 5 boroughs. High taxes and expensive housing are driving people away, leading to rising inventory and softening prices. In Manhattan and Brooklyn, rental vacancies have reached levels not seen in decades, and suburban markets are flooded with homes that linger unsold for months. Landlords are slashing rents and offering months of free rent just to attract tenants, while homeowners in the outer boroughs struggle to find buyers. Homeowners who bought at the peak are now underwater, and distressed sales are increasing. Many who purchased during the market's height now owe more than their homes are worth, leading to a surge in short sales and foreclosures. The ripple effect is felt throughout the community as declining property values erode local tax bases and strain municipal budgets. The luxury segment is especially strained, with high-end condos sitting vacant. Developers who once banked on foreign investors and wealthy buyers are now slashing prices or pulling listings altogether. Some luxury towers remain half-finished, their construction stalled as financing dries up and demand evaporates. Major fiscal deficits are forcing cuts in services and infrastructure. The city's shrinking tax base has led to painful decisions. Libraries and recreation centers are closing, road repairs are delayed, and public transit faces service reductions. Headlines highlight the growing frustration among residents as essential services become harder to access. If these trends continue, New York could face a slow, painful recovery. The city's vibrancy and economic engine are at risk, as the loss of residents and businesses undermines its ability to rebound. Without decisive action to address affordability, public safety, and fiscal stability, New York's path forward may be marked by prolonged stagnation and further decline. New Jersey's housing market is buckling under the weight of some of the highest property taxes in the nation and massive long-standing pension liabilities. These financial burdens have become a defining feature of the state's economic landscape, putting pressure on both homeowners and local governments. Slowing demand is evident as open houses sit empty and buyers hesitate, wary of the long-term costs of homeownership in New Jersey. Real estate agents report fewer showings and a growing sense of uncertainty among both first-time buyers and those looking to upgrade. Home prices, which once soared during the pandemic boom, are now stalling. Inventory is rising as more homeowners try to cash out before values drop further, but buyers remain on the sidelines, waiting for better deals or fearing future tax hikes. Sellers are increasingly forced to lower their asking prices, sometimes multiple times, just to attract interest. Many are frustrated by the slow pace of sales and the realization that their homes may not fetch the prices seen just a year or two ago. Foreclosures, while not yet at crisis levels, are inching up, especially in high-tax areas where homeowners struggle to keep up with rising costs. Bank-owned properties are becoming more common, and some neighborhoods are seeing a noticeable uptick in distressed sales. The state's financial health is a growing concern. With ballooning pension obligations and budget deficits, New Jersey's government has limited capacity to cushion the blow of a housing downturn. Efforts to reform pensions and control spending have met with political resistance, leaving little room for maneuver if the market worsens. Without meaningful fiscal reform, New Jersey risks a prolonged housing slump. The combination of high taxes, government debt, and cautious buyers could keep the market stagnant for years, eroding household wealth and straining local economies. Experts warn that unless the state addresses its structural financial problems, the housing market will remain vulnerable. Residents and policymakers alike are calling for urgent action, but solutions remain elusive as the burdens continue to mount. For now, New Jersey's future hangs in the balance, caught between the hope for reform and the reality of mounting economic pressures. Connecticut's housing market is under serious stress, with neighborhoods across the state seeing a surge in homes for sale and a noticeable slowdown in buyer activity. Once considered a haven for families seeking suburban stability, many Connecticut communities are now grappling with declining property values and a growing sense of uncertainty. The state's heavy debt load, among the highest per capita in the nation, leaves little flexibility to respond to economic downturns. Connecticut's pension obligations and unfunded liabilities have ballooned over the past decade, forcing lawmakers to make tough choices between raising taxes, cutting services, or borrowing even more. This fiscal strain limits the state's ability to invest in infrastructure, education, and economic development, further hampering growth. Affordability is a major issue, with home prices outpacing incomes for years. In cities like Stamford and West Hartford, median home prices have risen by over 30% since 2020, while wage growth has stagnated. Many first-time buyers are priced out of the market, and even established homeowners are feeling the pinch as property taxes climb to cover budget shortfalls. Foreclosures are rising, especially in cities like Hartford and Bridgeport, where job losses and stagnant wages have hit hardest. In 2023 alone, foreclosure filings in Connecticut jumped by nearly 40%, with some neighborhoods seeing entire blocks of vacant or abandoned homes. This wave of distress not only erodes property values, but also strains local services and deepens community decline. Inventory is up, demand is lagging, and sellers are making bigger concessions just to attract buyers. Real estate agents report that homes are sitting on the market for months, with price reductions becoming the norm. Some sellers are offering to cover closing costs or provide renovation credits, but even these incentives aren't always enough to close the deal. The economic ripple effects are visible on Connecticut's main streets, where shuttered businesses and empty storefronts have become increasingly common. Families are packing up and leaving for states with lower taxes and better job prospects, accelerating the cycle of decline. Without meaningful financial reform and a renewed focus on economic growth, Connecticut could face prolonged weakness, risking a downward spiral that will be difficult to reverse. Experts warn that only bold action, such as restructuring state debt, investing in workforce development, and fostering innovation, can restore confidence and put Connecticut back on a path to prosperity. The choices made in the next few years will determine whether the state rebounds or continues its slide into economic distress. Arizona's once red-hot housing market is cooling rapidly, marking a dramatic shift from the frenzied buying spree seen just a few years ago. The state, long a magnet for out-of-state buyers and investors, is now facing a new reality as economic headwinds gather strength. Cities like Phoenix and Tucson are seeing buyers pull back and inventory rise. Homes that once sold in days now linger on the market for weeks or even months, as hesitant buyers wait for prices to drop further. Higher mortgage rates and affordability concerns are sidelining many. With average 30-year fixed rates hovering near multi-decade highs, monthly payments have soared, pricing out first-time buyers and stretching the budgets of even established homeowners. Sellers are dropping prices, and foreclosures are ticking up among recent buyers. In some neighborhoods, price reductions have become the norm, and distressed sales are beginning to reappear, echoing the warning signs of past downturns. Job growth is slowing, especially in construction and hospitality. As new projects stall and tourism softens, layoffs and reduced hours are hitting workers who once fueled Arizona's economic boom. If these trends continue, Arizona could see a sharp correction reminiscent of the last crash. Experts warn that the state's rapid population growth, which once drove demand, may not be enough to offset the combined pressures of high interest rates, inflation, and a cooling job market. For many Arizonans, the uncertainty is palpable. Some are choosing to wait out the downturn, while others are forced to make tough decisions about selling, relocating, or even facing foreclosure. As the desert heat fades, so too does the once blazing housing market, leaving Arizona at a crossroads, hoping to avoid the mistakes of the past, but bracing for what may come next. Oregon is grappling with a convergence of economic and social pressures that threaten to reshape the state's future. Affordability issues have reached a breaking point, with housing costs outpacing wage growth for years. In cities like Portland and Eugene, families are increasingly forced to choose between paying rent and covering basic necessities, leading to a surge in demand for food banks and social services. Home prices have soared to record highs, but the dream of homeownership is slipping away for many. Nearly half of Oregon renters are now considered cost-burdened, spending more than 30% of their income on housing. Foreclosures and evictions are on the rise, especially in suburban and rural communities that once offered affordable alternatives to the city. The job market is weakening, with layoffs hitting both the tech sector and traditional manufacturing. Major employers in Portland have announced rounds of job cuts, while smaller businesses struggle to stay afloat amid declining consumer spending. Unemployment claims have spiked, and job fairs draw fewer opportunities than ever before. Homebuyer demand has softened dramatically, and inventory is rising as more owners try to sell before prices fall further. Real estate agents report sluggish open houses and a growing number of price reductions, signaling a shift from a seller's to a buyer's market. State budget pressures are mounting, limiting the government's ability to respond to the crisis. With tax revenues falling and social service demands rising, lawmakers face tough choices about funding for education, healthcare, and housing assistance. Public sector layoffs and hiring freezes are already underway in some departments. If these trends continue, Oregon could face a significant and prolonged economic correction. The ripple effects would be felt across every sector, from housing and employment to education and public health. Without decisive action and a reversal of current trends, the Pacific Northwest's economic engine may stall, leaving thousands vulnerable and communities struggling to recover. The warning signs are flashing bright red in these 13 states. The data is clear. Rising foreclosures, swelling inventories, and mounting financial stress are painting a picture we can't afford to ignore. From Nevada to Florida, states are experiencing surges in foreclosure rates and doubling inventories, echoing the early days of past crises. Budget shortfalls and rising unemployment are putting even more pressure on local economies. These aren't just numbers, they're signals that affect real people, real families, and real communities. Now is the time to reflect on what this means for you and your loved ones. Take a moment to consider how these trends might impact your own situation. Are you seeing similar signs in your area? What steps can you take to stay prepared? Let's keep this conversation going. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your perspective could help someone else make an informed decision. If you found this analysis helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more updates and insights. And if you know someone who could benefit from this information, share this video with them. Remember, staying informed and connected is our best defense. Together we can face whatever comes